Hello everyone and welcome again to one of my videos. Thank you for stopping by. So the first thing you might notice this week is I've had a haircut because it was getting a bit ridiculous and I just needed it gone, if I'm honest with you. I think I look a lot better, although I'm thinking of blonding it up again. I quite like it, so let's see whether I'll stick with that. But you've seen the title of this video, and today I want to talk about extremely rare variations of games consoles. Now, back in the day, Nintendo were the ones who mostly did this, but you used to be able to get all sorts of different colours and variations of consoles. For example, there was a gold Nintendo 64 that I really wanted, but unfortunately ended up with the standard grey one. There was also a see-through one that I really liked as well. Gamecube, Nintendo again did interesting ideas with that. It was released with a standard pearl white, a indigo version, and also a black version. But in Japan there was a really awesome Tango Fanta orange version, and there was also a gold version again that got released at some point. So this then got me thinking, what are the rarest variations of these consoles? And today I want to talk about ones that aren't necessarily just special colours. These are extraordinarily rare versions of these consoles. And not all of them are Nintendo. Although, admittedly, quite a few of them actually are, because it seemed honestly like Nintendo are the ones who really like to go hard into this. I would also like to address the fact that I did not put up a video last week. Unfortunately, I've had quite a lot of doctor's appointments recently, so I didn't have the time or, honestly, the energy to do it. And I also won't be putting one up next week because, again, I have a few doctor's appointments. So hopefully I'm going to try and get another one out later this week, maybe one of my Minecraft ones, but until then, unfortunately, it's going to be fortnightly at the moment. With all that said, though, let's jump straight into the first example I have for you today, and I think it's an absolute killer, personally. It's amazing. Let's jump straight in. During the research for this video, I saw this one, and it honestly reminded me that the Game Boy Pocket even existed. Yeah, I forgot. I actually started my Game Boy journey with a Game Boy Color when I was 11. It was Christmas Day, and I got Pokemon Red, and my brother got Pokemon Blue. We both got Game Boys that were the same colour, red for me and blue for him, to match the version of the game we got. And I honestly think we annoyed my mum to hell and back with how much we played that game that day. We took it to the dining room table while we were eating food, and yeah, we were not great with that one, to be honest. But why can you blame us? It was a great game. Honestly, even up until this day, still one of the best Christmases I think I've ever had. It was amazing. Quick refresher, and for those of you who actually don't know, or forgot like me, in 1996, Nintendo released the Game Boy Pocket as a sort of semi-successor to the Game Boy, which at this point was nearly a decade old and certainly visually was starting to get on a little bit. It was lighter, more ergonomic, smaller, and had a slightly bigger screen. With its new size, it could actually easily fit into your pocket. That's why they called it the Pocket! I've only just got that! Nintendo were normally so cryptic with their naming schemes, like when they called the Game Boy Color, because it had a colour screen. It took me years to work that one out. Speaking of the Game Boy Color, though, the reason I forgot about the Game Boy Pocket is probably because it still had the same monochrome screen. Even though it was a bit bigger, it couldn't show colour. And only a few years later, Nintendo released the Game Boy Color, which almost completely superseded the Game Boy Pocket, because it was effectively the same size, it took the same shell as the Game Boy Pocket, and added a colour screen. Why would anyone buy the Pocket at that point? My whiff has appeared. Sorry about that brief interruption there. Now, the Game Boy Color was one thing, but the Pocket had a special edition. An incredibly rare, and honestly pretty awesome, glow-in-the-dark version. Now let me spin you a yarn and tell you the tale of how all this came about. At the height of the N64 in 1997, came a game called Multi Racing Championship. This game was marketed in Japan with a competition. Players were challenged to submit their fastest times on the game's time trial mode on the mountain racetrack course. The contest was actually advertised on the back of the game's box, and it only ran for the first few months after the game's release, with the winners being decided at the end of September 1997. The idea was that the fastest 2,000 players would win the grand prize, which was the glow-in-the-dark Game Boy. At this point, I'd like to make a side note. You're not going to follow me to here, right? Right, okay. Never mind. My side note simply is that I think this thing is cool. Like, the glow in the dark bit, it's awesome. I think it looks cool. It's great. It's a great idea. It's a shame that there's so few of them. The big problem of this competition, however, was that actually fewer than 2,000 people entered the competition. Meaning that the developers of this game, Multi Racing Championship, were left with a surplus of glow-in-the-dark Game Boys that they couldn't give to anyone. They ended up actually including them for a competition for another game that they released, which is far less interesting, but that's how they got rid of the surplus. This means, however, that they are incredibly rare today. How rare, you may ask? Well, these days, if you can find a working one, they sell for around $1,500 US. Yeah, $1.5K for a Game Boy with a monochrome screen. As a final point to this, I would like to say that weirdly and somewhat ironically, you can't actually play this game while it is glowing in the dark because it doesn't have a backlit screen. Game Boy Pockets did not have backlit screens. So you can't even play it while it's glowing in the dark. The Gamecube! Now, as I mentioned in my intro, the Gamecube actually did come in a number of different colours, and some of them were limited editions, like the orange one I mentioned that came out in Japan. However, the one I'm talking about today was never on sale to the general public. This wasn't something that somebody like you or I could have bought from a shop. The story. When the Gamecube was in development, a Canadian company called ATI actually developed the GPU for it. Now, the codename for this GPU was Flipper. And that's mostly because the codename for the GameCube itself was Dolphin. So a lot of the things became Flipper and Dolphin related. I mean, even in Super Mario Sunshine, it's Isle Delfino, and it's in the shape of a dolphin. So, hence the name. After a few revisions, and eventually, Nintendo was extremely happy with the work that ATI had done for them, and it allowed them to realise their dream and the potential of the GameCube. So, to thank them for this, they actually created a set of roughly 100 special GameCubes. These GameCubes were the standard indigo colour, but they had a unique faceplate on them. Now, this faceplate had the ATI logo and a little message from Nintendo saying thank you for helping us realise our dreams. Also embedded in the plastic was actually a die from the GPU, which I think is a really nice touch. I quite like the looks of this thing, to be honest. As I mentioned, only roughly 100 of these were ever made for the developers. They were not put on sale, so they are incredibly rare. Over the years, some former ATI employees have actually auctioned these off. If they are in good condition and they work, these special GameCubes can actually sell for nearly as much as $4,000. $4,000. Nintendo were actually so happy with the work that ATI did, they ended up partnering with them again to work on the Wii. And they did the same thing with the Wii. When the Wii was released, they gave them some complimentary consoles that on the little flap that covers the GameCube controller ports, they put a thank you message with a little pun that says, "We did it!" And honestly, I love puns. If any of you have watched my previous videos, I'm a big pun fan, so I quite like that. We made it. And again, they embedded one of the die for the GPU of the Wii into the plastic as well. Again, I think this looks pretty cool, but honestly not as cool as the GameCube one in my opinion. Our next console came about due to a marketing deal, of all things, between Pepsi and Nintendo of Japan. So this was a Japanese exclusive, and it was made to promote the new lemon-flavoured Pepsi that had come out at the time. This was in 2005, and they had a special Pepsi-themed Nintendo DS in what I think is actually a really quite fetching sort of metallic blue colour. I really like it. I think it's cool. Now, this was a competition where people had to send in sort of bottle caps and earn points and whatnot. Now, the winners got this entire sort of tech cornucopia with the Nintendo DS. It also came with a Pepsi-branded carrying case for it, protective carrying case, and some rather interesting Pepsi headphones that you could use with it. And honestly, I actually wouldn't mind wearing those now. I think they're pretty cool, to be honest. I would take those. It also came with some little protective cases for cartridges as well. Only a few hundred of these were actually made, and the console itself sells for around $500. But if you have the intact kit, all of it, all of what I just mentioned, that actually sells for closer to $2,000 or $2,500 for a Nintendo DS with Pepsi logos on it. Let me take you back to 2013. At the E3 conference, Microsoft were announcing that they were going to be selling the Xbox One as the 8th generation of consoles beckoned. I think we all remember that the presentation didn't exactly go down too well, but that is not the focus of this video. What is the focus of this video is Rare consoles. And Microsoft then announced that they would also be releasing the game Titanfall. This game was seriously hyped up before its release. And Microsoft, naturally, started making quite a lot of tie-in things to go with it. And one of those things was actually kind of a cool Titanfall-themed Xbox One controller. However, the original idea was to make a complete Titan-themed Xbox console. Microsoft ended up not going through with this because they did actually have another line of limited edition consoles coming out as well, which was the Day 1 editions, which had sort of D1 written on them and whatnot. Came with a number of extra little bits and bobs. So they decided not to make the Titanfall line. However, by the point they declined to make it, roughly 300 had already been made as sort of a test product, I guess. Much like the Gamecube I mentioned earlier, these consoles never went directly on sale to consumers. They were given out by Microsoft to developers and generally people who were involved in the making of Titanfall as a thank you for the work that they'd done. Personally, I actually think this was a bit of a shame because I think the Titanfall console was pretty cool. It even had unique sound effects for power on, power off and disc eject. This wasn't just a skin on top of a standard console. They'd really put some work into this, and it's certainly better than the Day 1 edition, I think, anyway. Due to the fact that there were only roughly 300 of these ever made, and most of them did not go on sale to the general public, if you can find one still in its original box, they sell for nearly $5,000. I seriously wish I had that sort of money to spend on a collector's edition console. That would be awesome. And you know what? Maybe one day I will, but for now, I can keep dreaming and keep talking. In 2015, Rare decided it wanted to celebrate its 30th anniversary as a company. Rare, of course, were responsible for incredible classics such as Banjo-Kazooie and Perfect Dark, along with a number of other incredible games. So to celebrate, they created Rare Replay, which was a compilation of 30 of their most classic games that was available on the Xbox One. They also decided to host a number of events and competitions throughout the rest of the year. The top prize of all of these competitions was a Rare-themed Xbox One. It was really cool. It had a gold finish on one side, and on the other side, it had a collage of all of Rare's most famous characters. I think it looks really cool. Now, what's also really cool about it is they only made 6 of them. So this is already by far the rarest console we've talked about today. Out of those 6, all but 1 were given away in various different ways in competitions. So, for example, 1 was given away at the San Diego Comic-Con, 1 was given away to a fan on Twitter, and another, for example, was given away to a fan on Facebook. The website Console Variations, which incidentally is where I got a lot of my information for today's video, so I thank you very much to them for the work they've managed to do, got hold of one of these awesome consoles in 2017. Rare then actually invited the team at Console Variations to go visit their HQ, which they obviously promptly did. Whilst they were there, they actually managed to convince most of the Rare employees to sign their version of the Rare Xbox One, making it truly rare. Haha! Told you I loved puns, even when they're very shamefully bad. Of course, once this had been autographed, this then truly makes that console one of a kind. So the regular unsigned console, if you wanted that, it would set you back a tasty 2,000 freedom dollars. The signed one, however, well, Console Variations values that at priceless. I actually happen to agree with them. It is priceless, it is completely irreplaceable, and personally I believe stands as a monument to one of the greatest gaming developers that has ever existed. Well, that was a list of some of the rarest consoles that I could find, and certainly some of the more interesting ones. If you found any more, or you think there's some really cool ones out there, let me know. I would love to hear about it. If I had the money, I would buy every single one of the consoles I've listed today. I love collectibles. I love getting little pieces of gaming history. But unfortunately, I don't have 5k to spring on an Xbox One. For now, though, I will leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like. I appreciate it so much, and I love the support that I get. It also lets me know that I'm making content that you enjoy. If you really like this video and you want to see more stuff, hit that subscribe button. I upload fairly regularly, mostly every week. And if you want to see more of it right now, well, 2 videos are about to appear on screen, here and here. This one is the latest video that I made, and this one is a YouTube suggestion from my collection that they think you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, I really do appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you next time. Until then though, stay safe, goodbye.